Listen to this drum loop in your head. Every kick lands exactly on the line. Every snare has the same velocity. Every hi-hat is identical from the first bar to the last. It is mathematically tidy, and musically it can feel completely lifeless. Now, keep the same basic notes, but change the hierarchy. Let the important hits speak louder, pull a few secondary hits back, delay selected offbeats by a tiny amount. Change the last bar so the phrase has somewhere to go. Suddenly the pattern starts to breathe. That difference is not random sloppiness. Human feel is purposeful variation. The choices still support pulse, phrasing, and energy. In this video, we will build that feel with 10 practical drum programming techniques: velocity hierarchy, swing, ghost notes, kick placement, roll-based layering, microtiming, fills, selective sidechain ducking, reverb depth, and phrase-level humanization. These ideas work in any DAW. Make one intentional change, compare it in context, and keep it only when the groove communicates more clearly. The grid is a tool. It is not the music. Let us make the pattern feel like somebody meant every hit. Tip 1. Build a velocity hierarchy. If every MIDI note has the same velocity, the instrument receives no information about accents or touch. Depending on the drum library, velocity may change volume, trigger a different sample layer, alter the attack, or switch to a different articulation. That means a velocity edit can change both level and tone. Start by separating the pattern into 3 roles. First, identify the anchors, the downbeat kick, the main backbeats, or any hit that defines the phrase. These can live in the stronger range. Next, identify supporting hits. They reinforce the groove without demanding the same attention. Finally, identify ghost notes and quiet connective details. You might begin with anchors around 110 to 127, supporting hits around 75 to 105, and ghost notes lower than that. Those numbers are examples, not laws. Use them to create separation, then listen. Avoid adding random velocity to everything and calling it human. Randomness can erase the accent pattern. Instead, draw an energy shape. Maybe the second backbeat is stronger. Maybe a hi-hat phrase rises toward beat 4, then resets. The problem is not sameness itself. It is accidental sameness when the song is asking for movement. Tip 2. Add swing with intention. Straight timing divides the beat into equal pieces. Swing changes the relationship between those pieces, usually by delaying every second subdivision while the main pulse remains anchored. That slight long-short motion can turn a stiff hi-hat line into something that makes your head move. Begin with the hi-hats because they make the subdivision easy to hear. Play the pattern straight. Then increase the swing control slowly. Stop when the groove starts to lean in a useful direction. Keep going for a moment so you can hear the exaggerated version, then come back. The contrast helps you recognize the sweet spot. Do not copy one percentage across different DAWs and expect the same result. Swing controls, groove templates, and quantization systems do not all measure their range in the same way. 5% in one setup is not guaranteed to equal 5% in another. The number is a recall marker, not an objective amount of funk. You may keep the kick and main snare stable while the hats lean later. In some tracks, a straight kick under swung hats creates the exact tension you want. Check the part against the bass and vocal rhythm. Good swing does not announce a setting. It changes the way the whole track moves. Tip 3. Use ghost notes as connective tissue. A ghost note is a quiet hit that supports the main rhythm without competing with it. On a snare pattern, the main backbeats may land clearly on beats 2 and 4, while softer notes appear around them. Those quiet details can suggest the motion of hands between the accents and add funk to a simple groove. Start with only 1 or 2 ghost notes. Place one before a backbeat and another after it. Lower the velocity until you almost lose it, then bring it up just enough to affect the pocket. If the ghost note sounds like a third main snare, it is no longer doing a ghost note's job. Variation matters here. A repeated chain of identical soft snares can become another machine pattern. Change the velocity, leave gaps, and let the phrase answer itself. One bar can be sparse, the next can contain a little pickup into beat 4. Most important, judge ghost notes inside the full track. Soloed, they may sound extremely quiet. In context, their job is often to change the motion rather than become a feature. Mute them for one pass. If the main pattern suddenly feels flatter, they are probably working. Tip 4. Design the kick pattern around the bass. The kick does more than mark time. It shares the low end with the bass and helps define the song's physical movement. That relationship matters more than any fixed genre recipe. Listen to the bass part first. Is it sustaining long notes or playing short rhythmic figures? Does it carry the deepest fundamental, or is the kick the lowest event in the track? Which one provides the attack, and which one provides the body between attacks? If the bass is busy, a simpler kick may leave the rhythm readable. If the bass holds long notes, a more active kick can add movement. Sometimes the kick should land with the bass to create one strong event. Sometimes alternating them creates space and syncopation. The right answer comes from the phrase. Before reaching for a large equalizer cut, try arrangement and envelope decisions. Move a bass note, shorten its release, choose a kick with a different decay. A small sidechain move can help when the conflict only happens on kick hits. Do not hollow out both sounds just because their analyzers overlap. Loop 4 or 8 bars and focus on the combined rhythm, not the soloed kick. The goal is not a perfect kick pattern on paper. The goal is one rhythm section that makes the next beat feel inevitable. Tip 5. Layer drum sounds by roll. Layering can create a bigger or more distinctive hit, but more samples do not automatically mean more power. The most useful layers contribute different jobs. For a kick, one layer might provide the low-frequency body, while another provides a short transient that translates on small speakers. For a snare, a tight central crack might combine with a quieter room layer that adds length and atmosphere. A hi-hat can gain texture from a subtle shaker or noise layer, as long as the result still has one clear rhythmic identity. Begin with the strongest sample. Ask what it is actually missing. Add one layer to solve that specific gap, then compare against the original at a similar perceived level. Louder almost always feels better in a quick comparison, so level matching protects your judgment. Check timing closely. If two transients are a few milliseconds apart, the result may become wider and looser, or it may lose impact. Flip polarity when the low end changes unpredictably. Tune pitched layers, then remove the layer and listen again. If the combined sound is not clearly better in the track, you do not need it. Layering works when the listener hears one intentional drum with more character, not a stack of sounds arguing about where the hit begins. Tip 6. Use microtiming, not random chaos. Microtiming means moving selected hits slightly ahead of or behind the strict grid. An early hit can create forward pressure. A late hit can make the groove feel relaxed. The effect depends on tempo, transient shape, instrument, and everything playing around it. Start with a small range, perhaps 5 to 15 milliseconds. Move one element, not the whole kit. A snare a few milliseconds late may create a laid-back pocket while the kick remains stable. A percussion hit slightly early may add urgency, then compare with the original. Those numbers are starting points, not targets. At a fast tempo, 15 milliseconds can feel much more obvious than it does in a slow track. A sharp rim click exposes an offset more clearly than a soft shaker. If you hear the note as simply late or mistaken, bring it closer. Keep important anchors steady when the style needs them. Human feel does not require every hit to wander. In fact, the contrast between a stable kick and more flexible hats can make the groove easier to feel. Close your eyes for the final decision. If the edit improves motion without calling attention to the grid, keep it. If the timing trick becomes the story, it is probably too much. Tip 7. Make fills answer the arrangement. A fill is a short increase or change in activity that helps the listener anticipate a section change. It can be a snare run, a tom phrase, a busier kick pattern, a cymbal pickup, or even a brief stop. The fill is a sentence ending. Its shape should fit what the song is about to say. Build the fill from the vocabulary already inside the groove. If the main pattern uses syncopated 16th notes, a fill can develop that rhythm. If the track is sparse, one extra kick and a crash may communicate more than a dense roll. Shape velocity through the fill. 4 identical loud hits often sound pasted in. A small rise toward the downbeat creates direction. Protect the destination. Leave enough space for the first kick, chord, or vocal of the new section to land clearly. Do not place a fill at every transition by habit. If every 4 bars announces itself, the listener stops feeling the announcement. Let some changes happen through silence, automation, or a simple cymbal. Listen from 2 bars before the change to 2 bars after it. A fill succeeds when the next section feels more satisfying, not when the fill sounds impressive by itself. Tip 8. Duck only the collisions. Toms, low percussion, and layered impacts can overlap the kick in the same instant. A short sidechain move can open a pocket, but the goal is not to make the entire drum bus pump every time the kick plays. Put the dynamic processor on the element that is causing the conflict and feed the kick into its sidechain. Lower the threshold until you hear the overlap become clearer. Then reduce the range or ratio so the move is only as deep as necessary. Attack controls how quickly the pocket opens. A very fast attack can remove the front of a percussion hit. Release controls how quickly the sound returns. Too fast can chatter, too slow can pull energy out after the collision is gone. You can also use a frequency-selective dynamic equalizer if only the low mids are fighting. That may preserve the upper character of a tom while the kick owns a narrow region for a moment. Bypass the processing and compare at a similar level. If the mix is clearer but the percussion still feels natural, the move is doing useful work. If every kick creates an obvious hole, back off. Sidechain is not a ritual. It is a response to a specific timing and frequency conflict. No collision means no problem to solve. Tip 9. Create depth with room and hall sends. A dry snare feels close because its direct sound arrives without much reflected space. Reverb changes that perspective. A short room can place the snare inside a believable environment. A longer hall can add scale, drama, and a tail that connects sections. Keep the dry hit as your anchor and add reverb on ascend. This lets several drums share a space while you control the return separately. Start with the return low. You should miss it when it is muted before you clearly hear it as an effect. Use pre-delay to separate the direct crack from the reverb onset. A little space before the reflections can preserve punch. Adjust decay so the tail supports the tempo rather than washing into every next hit. Filter the return if low-frequency mud or sharp high-frequency splash distracts from the groove. Automation can make depth part of the arrangement. Keep a verse snare relatively dry, then raise the send into a chorus or let one final hit bloom into the next section. The test is perspective. Can you still locate the direct hit? Does the space make the section feel intentional? If the snare moves backward when it should lead, shorten or lower the return. Tip 10. Humanize the phrase, then trust your ears. Velocity and microtiming operate note by note, but music is heard in phrases. Zoom out to 4 or 8 bars. If every bar is identical, change one detail with a reason. Remove a kick before the vocal pickup. Open the last hi-hat. Add a ghost note in the second pass. Make the final bar point toward the next section. When realistic drumming is the goal, consider physical playability. A drummer has 2 hands and 2 feet. An impossible pile of simultaneous cymbal, tom, snare, and hi-hat notes may reveal the programming even if every sample sounds excellent. You do not need to imitate an acoustic kit in electronic music, but understanding the body gives you another creative constraint. But do not erase the machine when the machine is the point. Repetition can be hypnotic. Perfect 4-on-the-floor timing can be powerful. Human feel is one aesthetic tool, not a universal measure of quality. Play the drums with the bass, vocal, and main hook. Stop staring at the notes. If your body understands the groove and the section energy feels right, the programming is doing its job. Here is the human feel pass. First, build a velocity hierarchy. Second, add swing gradually and judge the offbeats against the pulse. Third, use ghost notes as quiet connective tissue. Fourth, design the kick around the bass part so timing, envelope, and pitch cooperate. Fifth, layer by roll and keep only the samples that contribute something distinct. Sixth, use microtiming on selected hits while stable anchors preserve the groove. Seventh, make fills answer the arrangement and protect the downbeat they lead into. Eighth, use sidechain ducking only where toms or percussion actually collide with the kick. Ninth, create depth with intentional room or hall sends, shaping pre-delay, decay, tone, and automation. 10th, zoom out and humanize the phrase with purposeful variation. Drum programming is a sequence of relationships. Loud hits make quiet hits meaningful. Straight anchors make swung details readable. Repetition makes variation matter. So program to communicate intention, not to decorate the grid. Use the numbers to repeat a decision, then use your ears and your body to decide whether it was the right one. The drums are the heartbeat of the track. When the groove feels inevitable, everything else has something solid to believe in.